Okay, we are live. So I'd like to welcome everybody. This is Coley from SNX Radio on behalf of, we are also streaming on Helix Rock Radio. So I'd like to say hello to both sides. We have a very awesome and special guest today. His name is Jeff Silver. And just to give you a little background on him, he is an experiencer, which I absolutely love. It looks like he, really got into things. In December of 1997, he expressed the rising, which was an agreement between gray aliens and to discover his soul. And the rising required to take the leap of faith, sell his possessions, and begin life traveling from place to place. I get this. I really do. I bet many experiencers do. What it unfolds is truly epic adventure, removal from society and living close to nature, all while having contact events with gray aliens without knowing. In summary, it's 26 contact events with gray aliens told in amazing detail and spread out from the light years 1993 to 2017. So he was shown what humans understand about spirituality, life after death, and much, much more. So without further ado, I'm going to let Jeff kind of, outline some of this because I think it's really great. I just wanted to say that I remember when I first had I'm an experiencer also. And when I had my first encounter, it changed my life course forever. So to have the courage and the strength to, leave your banking position, or I was a mental health therapist in a nice cushy office, and
Right.
to do that is unbelievable. So I'd like to applaud you for that.
Thank you.
And yeah, so why don't you go ahead and we get started here? Tell us a little bit about yourself and where this journey has taken you.
Yeah. Thanks, Coley, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
yeah. So, well, the story goes is that I made an agreement with gray aliens to discover my soul. I always have to laugh when I say that because it sounds, wonky. And but the reality is it happened, and at the time they were obscuring my memories, so I wasn't aware the contact events were happening, and they left markers, what I consider to be, signature points of weirdness.
Are
And
you talking about, like, did you wake up with markings on your skin, or did you have
nothing
I call
happened. Yeah, nothing
okay.
happened beside my bed. So everything occurred while I was out in nature.
Mhm.
And the actual objects wouldn't start appearing until I started traveling. So before that period, basically from the year 1993 to 1997, I'm living a normal teenager life. But I'm having weird events occur out in nature, some cases with friends, and then they would leave weird events. Um, I don't even
Can
know
you
how to explain
describe
it.
what weird to
Yeah,
me is, like, become normal, so I'm like,
yeah. So,
there's
okay, well, at the
nothing but
time, it was
weird.
just what it was. Let's put an example of this was my sixth contact event. All it is me and my friend hiking, and we decided to go up to see the sunset in the park that we're in right at the time. It was filled with forest, and it's Mitakata Park here in Port Coquitlam in BC,
Okay.
here in Canada where I live, and we're climbing up, and all the memory is my friend zones out. And something caught his attention. He doesn't know what it is. He's zoned out. I remember the event because it's such a strange moment. And then we nothing. There's nothing. I don't think anything of it. We're just like, what's going on? He's like, I don't know. I don't know. Something I got weirded out. And that's it. And we're like, okay, no problem. We walk up the top of the hill. We're left with this imprint of like we feel amazing, and we don't know why we feel amazing, and we're laughing, and we have and this it's this like soul imprint. I can't even, it's such a deep thing that was making us feel exceedingly ecstatic. No big deal. Two guys, that's pretty weird, but no, okay, whatever. But then the feeling never went away for the entire week. And when I called him back up the weekend, I said, hey, did you feel like amazing all week long? And he's like, I did. Every time I woke up, I feel like I'm in love with life. I'm like, me too. What the hell's going on? And then we both recognized it started the night that we hung out together. And
Okay.
it's tiny, tiny, tiny little markers like that. I would actually forget about the event, but I would journal it in a journal I had at the time. And then when I was my memories were coming back. These tiny little events would bottom line is that the memories were all being obscured, and they would be obscured for well over 20 years. And then at the age of 40, objects I'd seen while traveling had come back, and it kind of unraveled everything. And it was like once I had figured out that I had alien contact and I could touch the memories, I touched what it felt to be like in their presence,
Mhm.
markers in my teenagehood opened up with flashbacks. So when I
Oh,
recognized that this event was weird, I immediately saw a flashback of what what occurred actually, and it was anyway. So I didn't know that they could do things like stop time. I didn't know those were realities, even when the memories were
right.
coming out. And basically, I worked at a year for about a year of putting together what had happened to me. I'm still kind of trying to understand the larger picture of things, but so it turned out that that was a contact event, and that's just one of them that was going on at the time. And so they were hiding behind my life, is what it was. And they initiated a consciousness event at the end of 1997. So I was 20 years old at the time, and the
Oh, wow.
consciousness event was so extreme, it made me leave my life. It was paired with a message from a like a spiritual message to abandon society and travel, kind of in the name of God, actually. And it sounds
Mhm.
totally wacky. And when I took it upon myself to do that, then I started seeing orbs and things in the sky, kind of as if they were like following me around. And I didn't know nor understand that that was alien contact, or that that meant it could be happening. I just didn't have that knowledge at the time. And that happened for about 2.5 years. A bunch of synchronicities had me end traveling. I met my partner, my to be partner. She was all kind of a part of it. And then all the orbs and stuff stopped, and all the weirdness stopped, and I kind of started living a normal life. But I was unresolved about what had happened to me, the consciousness event and the traveling, why it all kind of rolled out the way it did. And but I never found answers to it. And at the age of 41, uh, I was unsettled by my past. Literally, my
Mhm.
feelings were I was in discordance about it. I didn't understand what had happened. I did not think aliens and UFOs, and it was a random documentary. Well, not a random documentary. Jeremy Corbell's documentary on Bob Lazar that I thought was
Yeah.
pretty good, that got me interested in UFOs.
Oh,
And
cool.
I started watching a YouTube channel that has people's anomalous objects in the sky. And when I did
Mhm.
that, the objects I saw traveling came back. And then that was the connecting piece of like, wait, what? Like, why are those objects that, like, I didn't think of them as UFOs at the time too. So it was kind of a weird thing going on in my head about what had happened to me, and the weirdness and mystery behind it all. And yeah, it's all in my book, how it all unraveled, but it was a slow process that unraveled the entire memory set. and uh,
Wow.
and the thing that made me traveling was actually an experiment on their behalf, and that was obscured from me at the time. So
So were these, can you describe, I've seen 3 different types. I've experienced, I always say experienced 3 different types, like the short grays, the tall
oh
grays,
yeah,
and then ones that look like more like you and I.
yeah, right, humanoids,
Who
yeah.
were you dealing with when all this is going
Yeah,
down?
so the main entity, there's a signature entity that I always dealt with. I call her
Okay.
the Elder. So she was a 4 foot tall, um had an elongated cone, actually, so kind of a
Okay.
weird shape to her head, had downward angled eyes. And yeah, so she was my main entity that I still deal with to this day.
Really?
And yeah, the Elder is what I call her. And
Mhm.
then yeah, but it was 26 contact events that unraveled, and what was amongst it was random events. There was a contact event where it's just tall grays. And so there's always kind of a purpose to what was happening. She wasn't always there, but she was largely there. So there are
Mhm.
definitely contact events where I deal with tall grays. The tall grays in these cases were medical beings. So in most cases, the talls I was dealing with were medical beings. Occasionally, I'm interacted with kind of like a some type of gray alien spiritual elder, and that entity seemed tall as well too. And then as well too, I also dealt with humanoids. Yeah, and so I have a couple moments in my contact events where I'm interacting with humanoid aliens. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah,
See, before all this, like, well, I guess in the beginning, I started tracking it with the Hetla movement, it's just humanoid extraterrestrials live among us. And when I first started, people were like, no, that's so crazy. They couldn't even fathom it. But then I'm like, no, I think, what do you think? I think we're on their time, their space, their time. Like, this has all been constructed before us is what we kind of started to see. So
Mhm.
I guess in your contact, I'm curious as to, the humanoids that you talked about. Is that like in our space and time, or was that like when you were off with them? Like in their, I always say
Oh,
that it's two different things. Like their space and time is not our space and time. It's totally
interesting.
different.
Yeah. It was in their environment. Yeah. It was definitely
Okay.
on craft in their bases, in their environments. 100%. Very interesting you bring that up. I definitely, okay. Yeah. So to answer the one question, 100%, there is all the humanoids I interact with that are aliens are 100% in their environment.
Okay.
Um, but there is a scenario where the elder shapeshifted. So my 24th contact event, I, in my normal everyday waking life, without knowing I'm having alien contact, I have a weird scenario that turned out to be a shapeshifted alien. It was my gray alien, kind of coming in and uh, playing a human, basically, is what it was, and
Yeah.
without my awareness of it. And it unravels in this very strange way where my guru, I have a spiritual teacher, a guru is a part of my life, a Vedic guru, and he intuited her, and he made a big thing about it, making a joke about it with me, and that's how it got imprinted at the time, without knowing I had a contact event around it. Was my guru kind of like picking up on it, like, hey, this a spirit was playing a joke on you, and he's laughing about it. A spirit was playing a joke on you, came in as a woman and was hitting on you, and this thing was hitting on me, and it was a weird woman, and it was my elder who shapeshifted, is what it is. I'll ended up figuring it all out, but at the time, my guru was just like, a spirit was playing a joke on you, ha ha ha, and he's like laughing about it, and it did happen. I was like, wait, he's picking up on something. Like, it's like, yeah,
Mm.
this weird woman was hitting on me in this grocery store. That's really strange that you would say that. And it turned out to be the elder, shapeshifted as a human. And she'll do that in the contact event. She'll actually shapeshift as the human, showing me that
Really?
it was her. So it's a weird game that they can play. But that was in my environment. So it's interesting you say that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's really fascinating because when I was okay, so with the shorter grays like you described, 4 foot, they
Yeah.
had the pear-shaped head and like just their eyes. Like and I've heard from people like that they actually come in with contact. I have two totally separate, and one was Dali Saffron. So she's pretty up to date on all that. That they were actually putting contacts in because of the light, so it protects their
Oh,
eyes. So I don't
right.
know, what to think about all that, but I can tell you that the second I call different stages. So when I was like moved past the short grays, I went on to the tall grays. Now when I was there, they let me move around freely. I wasn't restrained.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got to see, but what was there was a child that it really
Mm,
bothered me because he
right.
he was just waiting there. He looked like, you know, like us, but maybe he's like dressed out of the JC Penney's catalog, and he just was very, quiet and like so sometimes they showed me how, and I always wondered, and like since you're kind of saying you had this extensive like contact with them, like are they showing me they would project like memory, like pictures or like
Yeah.
things. It wasn't always like the telepathic, like people think you hear a voice in your head.
Yeah.
And if I asked, they showed me how their time was and how they actually went back and holographically recreated. And they would stand there. That way it didn't manipulate or create a ripple or anything going through it. They just actually reconstructed it and was there. And then they showed me how they do participate. And I wasn't sure. I'm like, okay, so they were showing me how they go and like play miniature golf. It's not like they're going to play miniature golf. It's all simulated. But I was wondering, okay, so are these children getting prepared to come to planet Earth? Because and kind of acclimate them, so or assimilate with our culture undetected, or what's your take on that?
So, okay, I'm actually a bit confused by it. So, can you narrow down the question? So,
Sure.
it's regarding this child you saw on craft. Is that what
Right.
you're saying?
Right.
And so, and this child was a humanoid, not a hybrid. Is that what you're saying?
I am assuming so, but I don't
Right.
know. Like, I don't
Right.
know
So
for
you
sure.
saw
I
it,
didn't think
and
about that.
yeah,
Yes.
and it had an imprint on you. You were kind of affected by it, right? Is that what you're
Mhm.
saying too? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Oh, yeah.
so the way I understand, so this is the bigger piece that I take away from what's going on right now.
Okay.
Our our perception of our realm, the
Mhm.
simulation that we exist in, is all a product of the human brain, physical tissue brain, soaking up information, and the ethereal mind, the spirit mind, if you will, is grasped into the brain. So the mind will believe what the brain believes, and that's a limitation on the realm and the world that the alien entities are operating from. And yeah, time is just half of this. Never mind, they appeared. I think that they're from a plasma realm, and the entities themselves are plasma oriented entities. So our comprehension, and not just that, they're in the afterlife, and they're in these other kind of like no space, no time dimensions. So the comprehension we have with these entities plays a part in this, and they also might. Against the point I'm trying to say is sometimes a contact event happens or the events on a contact event are occurring. So you know, they're creating that push in the self of the individual who's witnessing it. Sometimes the event is not actually to show you something. It's actually to create a response inside of you that you end up kind of back on earth with, and you're like, that was really weird, I saw that kid. And so that has a way that you internalize that information. And for all I know, maybe it had you going down a rabbit hole now in your life where you're trying to understand that type of information and you're trying to learn about it, and now you're going to talk about it somewhere like you would on a podcast. I think they see such big picture content, but the way they influence and how they affect humans. And I don't think any of this is malicious. I think that this is the way they're doing it. And I think a lot of what they do is symbolic. And some of it, yeah, sure, is definitely practical and logical, but I don't even know that they think in linear time in the same way
Right.
that we would. And that's why they would resolve with symbolic expression, which is, telepathic and communication is highly symbolic. And so much of the contact events, if they weren't with me, if it wasn't with a strict linear purpose, which most of the time it was because I was part of an experiment, but otherwise they're using holograms, they're using consciousness type devices or consciousness holograms, and they're symbolic all the time, most of the time. And then sometimes they're combining that with real information, but they're expressing it in this very symbolic way. And so I guess the point is, I don't really know. But your scenario is something that I think might be a mystery for you. I don't know that it's something with which another person can answer. If what you saw on Craft was a real kid or some type of hybrid or something, only you be able to really kind of discern these things. And then the why they would do those kind of things is always to the self. I think that they are, if they're telepathic, then we cannot deny they're empathic. And so then they're watching the response. They're very interested in your response. And that's the type of thing I know they did with me. So they did things and then they watched how I handled it, and they liked that and they observed that. And again, I don't believe any of
Oh,
that is
wow. Yeah.
malicious as much as that we're dealing with higher dimensions, learning higher dimensional entities, learning about how to interact with and learning about how humans handle information and what we do with certain types of information. And yeah, I do think it's for a bigger picture that they do plan to put themselves here. Yeah.
I really, I guess you call them a point of contact. I always call them a point of reflection because I said it. I almost feel like those points maybe would be different for somebody else, but for me, it was enough to stop me in my tracks. And then I wondered. I mean, I went as far. This is kind of crazy. I went as far as this child, and I was like, "Hey, I remember thinking, like, you can come to my house and I have a child kind of your age and we won't tell anyone, if you want to come and play." And,
Right.
because I didn't think that he felt like he was nurtured. He's
Right.
just waiting there. And so I thought maybe they haven't brought the children in yet. Maybe this is the next step, because that's what it almost seemed like. There was a med bay down the hall, this triangle hall of like what we call now like LED lights. But back then, we didn't, it just wasn't the technology, how far it's come. So, yeah. So I thought, that's what I have. And anytime I've ever had questions, they've always answered them, but they don't answer very specifically.
Right. Yeah.
It's like you get this. I'm like, okay, well, what I found, I used to
Generally, yeah.
just dig, yeah, I wanted to make sense of these memories, and then I stopped doing that. And I'm like,
Right.
they come at the right moment. And then when they
Yeah.
do, I'm like, okay, there it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's unbelievable. So they do communicate with you like pictures, holographically, or how do you experience most of like the telepathy of what they
Yeah. Yeah. It's good that there's, so over the entire 26 contact events, there was a huge variety of things that they did with me. So I say the typical is,
Mhm.
um, like projected feeling. So not even a language, not even words in my head. And the simplest would be go look out that window. And so she's not actually saying go look out the window. It's whatever the words I say, go look out the window, have a feeling, an implied feeling behind them. And that's what they would do. Just send you a feeling. And you're like, oh, okay. And you know, it's, you're being, instructed basically.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
I could
that's one
sense
level.
them. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's like a push of a feeling of energy, and then you're reading it and you're like, oh yeah, that's what they're saying to me, and you kind of understand it. The other is language. I'm actually convinced the aliens, know English, and they're actually telepathically sometimes using human words, and they did that with me. And for an example, when I was 16, and they're telling me, to make to form this agreement with them to discover my soul, they're using words that I don't even use as a 16-year-old that they're putting into my head. Soul, destiny, right? They're saying, well,
Yeah.
this is your destiny. And they're saying these words. And I'm a 16-year-old, and I don't even, presently, I don't even use the word destiny. So these are their words that they're kind of putting in my head. And they're saying physical, or they're saying like impressionable words. And at times it will be a phrase or maybe a sentence will be a mixture of the two of imprints with imprint word. So a telepathic feeling word, right? And so then as a human, we can translate the entire thing into a sentence. And then the other is the main entity I dealt with, knew how to, when I was communicating with her, it'd be through her eyes, and she knew
Oh,
how to
wow.
like get me, or just, it's telepathic, like imagery is what it is. So I would
Mhm.
see depth as if like she's putting like a hype, not even a dream. It's such a hyper realistic thing that she would be able to put into my consciousness, into my mind, into my brain, and it would be imprinted in the memories and everything.
Wow.
And so, when my story is that they're telling me that we're coming to build a city. So she shows it to me, right? She shows me a city, and I'm just sitting there looking at her, and there's this grand city. I'm going through a whole sequence in my head, and she's just showing me a city in my head, and I'm seeing the hybrids inside the city, and it's all her, and it's all projected from her eyes, right? And going into my head, and I'm having this
Oh,
whole
wow.
sequence. And of course, what it's combined with is feeling, so I can understand what's being said to me through all this, and it's kind of encased in my mind and my memory. And then the fourth would be kind of, now we're starting dealing with like external objects like technology, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of consciousness tech. Rudy Schilt has a really good write up in Susie Hanson's book, The Dual Soul Connection,
Mhm.
The Alien Agenda for Human Advancement. That this extra layers. Humans are two-dimensional in our information, our books and our TVs, our iPhones and computer, even right now, all two-dimensional. And it's very much like the entities have added a third dimension. So instead of you and me just talking, the readers, imagine in their world, would be able to feel my imprints. They would feel me as I'm talking. They would feel all the emotions coming off of me. And same with
Oh,
you too,
wow.
your inquisitiveness, and as you're thinking about it. So this is like a next layer of information, and the entities have mastered all this. And their holographic tech is in and of itself communicates. So yeah, at one point they're telling me, well, I see two planet holograms. They tell me at two different times kind of this planet thing that they're thinking about doing. And in one case, yeah, it's the hybrids basically, but they're showing me the
Mhm.
earth, and I'm seeing the earth kind of, fragile. It's weakening in its state, and then it burns, goes up in flames. And so I'm feeling it all, right? I'm feeling the instability. No one's telling me the planet is unstable. I'm feeling it off of this hologram, and it's kind of, I'm able to interpret it easily, all the information. And then it goes up in flames as in a shock. And then when it gets rebuilt, I feel the gray aliens love nature, and they're kind of like wanting nature preserved. And so all that information comes off of this hologram. And I'm also aware at the time it's symbolic. It's not like I'm like being ingrained with a hard, I'm not duped by anything here. I'm aware it's symbolic, but it's clear it's communicating to me what's being said. And it's, it's a hologram with an extra layer of information, and I can feel and extrapolate the information. That's probably the best way to frame this. I can extrapolate the information like a dream. And it's such
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
extra layer of depth of information that the human absorbs. And yeah, it's very fascinating, and the way these entities know how to handle consciousness, minds, and to communicate. Yeah, it's fascinating.
No, it is absolutely fascinating. I one time, not gonna lie, I was keeping journals too. I probably not as organized as you are, Jeff, but I was keeping journals. I was writing everything. I had all these books. Anyway,
Right.
so December, I noticed this pattern. It's really connected to the Orion's belt. Like that's how I'd always find it. But there was once where the stars connected and it made this almost this pathway, and I was just watching them. This happened twice. So anyway, in December, I thought I'd take it and I'd draw it. I actually have pictures of it. It looks like a little kid did it. But in July, so this would have happened in December of 2017. July 2018, that was imprinted on the back of my leg. I went to get out of bed. And my son's like, "What happened to you? What happened?" And I looked at it and I knew exactly what picture it was. So I start digging through the books and I'm like, I found it. I'm like, this is it. This is like the point of reflection. It's just like, hey, that
Right.
was enough to get my attention here. You got it. So
Right.
it's just during those moments, and then it's like those downloads begin, or you don't understand, or people are
Yeah.
like, what why you were a therapist. I'm like, you don't understand. The
Yeah.
moment that I came in contact with one, I was 30 feet away, it was 50-foot in diameter, and I couldn't deny it. Like there was nothing I could be like, oh, that didn't happen. It happened. Like
Yeah.
they came up, Mufon came out and did the whole 9 yards. And I'm
Wow.
like, it happened. So, I didn't have to, it was real at that second
Yeah.
in moment in time. And I'm just like, I changed my whole course of life
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
powerful.
So what
Um,
is was your like they told me I was here for communication, but I know
right.
that's really general. So did they tell you like, hey Jeff, you're here for, like what is your mission, maybe call it, or
Yeah. So it's what I'm doing. So I have a book out. They
yeah.
actually instructed me to write the book. So the gist of it is it's this experiment to discover my soul. So it shows a part of them,
Mhm.
right? That
Yeah.
I think we don't have a lot of information about. And so it's very valuable to them that this story gets out because it shows a side. Okay. Yeah. So I was a part of an experiment for gray aliens. I got used for the biological program as well, too, for the hybrid program. So
Mm,
there's like the
okay.
dual side where of like, oh, the good lovey-dovey side, if you will, the woo side. And then on top
Right?
of it is the shocker side, the traumatic side. And so I
Yeah.
had both, and then it
Mhm.
stopped. So they kind of gave me a period where I was fighting with them. The end of 1998, I was literally fighting. I'm like, get out of my life! I don't want you anymore. And they're trying to work with me, who's a person who's fighting with them, and then we kind of come to an agreement. And there's a whole contact event that happens there. But then they still stay in my life, and there's no more biology. And the what happens is eventually they help me back into society, but it takes it like a year and a bit, and there's several contact events, and they have a whole bunch of different information they tell me. um so then they in 2016, in a progress to when I get my memories out, they're telling me in a contact event, hey, your memories are open now, and we want you to write them out into a book. We want you to tell your world about what happened to us, to what happened between us,
Oh,
and
wow.
we also want you to tell them we're coming. And so the whole premise was basically after the biology, over several different types of contact events, I was seeing hybrids grow up. And the whole thing was I was kind of ended up bonding with these hybrids.
Yeah.
And so then I end up kind of feeling like, oh, okay, I get it. And when I all of a sudden when I take the bigger picture about what had happened to me, I get I get what's going on here. And you know, they do believe they're helping, and I do think that they are helping. And so my whole story is to kind of show these kind of maybe multiple sides. And so then
Mhm.
I'm as a, yeah, sure, you could say a messenger, but um yeah, it's a story that I think has me communicating a certain type of way, putting out a certain type of information that's helpful to them. And then they support that because I'm able to
Mhm.
still film them. And when I capture films of them presently, they let me do that. So they do something where it's nice and slow, as if like get your phone out, and you're like
Right.
okay, and then you can sit there and film it. Because when they don't want to be filmed, I think everyone now who understands this phenomenon and tries to film it, they don't let you film.
No.
Either they do something to your phone, or they're just too
Oh,
far and it's too
yeah.
fuzzy, and you can't make sense of it. And so yeah,
Oh,
it's like
yeah.
they control all that messaging, and so here they are again, not controlling, but creating messaging. And then
Right.
they need individuals who had rich type of experience to express a certain type of perspective about them. And so that's what this is. I'm not just convinced though, um, that it ends here, and I'm convinced that all of this, for all of us contactees, this is
Yes,
just the
yes.
beginning of it. Because
Um,
when they become more public, we become more valuable to them without a doubt. And I even see a world where the entire world knows they exist, and then we're even more needed, all the contactees. So
I
yeah.
I was talking to Stephen Bassett and actually, have an interview with him tonight about this because he talked
Mhm.
about the civilian, um, experiencers and what would
Yeah,
happen upon post-disclosure, and I wasn't very excited about it.
yeah.
They
Right.
like, some of the scenarios that I was like, "Well, you told me that the military, they're focused." Oh, well, not after that point. They're the
Yeah,
civilians, so
yeah, yeah. I
that will
have
be
I
interesting.
I feel our work is going to be cut out for us, and I feel like we'll be assisted by them. But I think the whole point with the whole, I like, listen, there's some previous contact was made. Okay, what is that contact? We don't fully know. Like in the 50s, right? Something happened. We don't fully know. There's a lot of kind of conspiracy behind it, but I think it's looking, if you really delve into some of the kind of erroneous research, that the military, whoever these people are who had this information, was trying to get it out to some degree. And you kind of now see a scenario where it's possible they were supposed to warm us up earlier and make it maybe a transition or some kind of awareness about them be smoother, and it might
Mhm.
not be as smooth now as they had hoped or anybody had hoped, and now it has the potential to be very unsmooth. And that unsmoothness, I think, causes work and maybe hardship for a lot of people, but for those who've actually interacted with the phenomenon, it makes work. and
Yeah.
and they may rely on us for that work. So
Right? Yeah. Isn't that
that's a
true?
simple way
Like,
of saying
yeah.
that.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, and then you have to go. I said that when this first happened, I'd never forget, like, you're telling your family this, you're telling your friends, you're telling your
yeah,
community this, and it's
yeah.
not the most comfortable thing to
No,
do, you
it
know?
sucks. It
I know.
sucks. It totally sucks. It totally
Oh,
sucks.
it does
It's-
too until you get so used to it. But for me, I thought, "Oh, if I can just do my part, then I can just get out of this,"
Get
I
out of
thought
here.
that was
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
I
it
totally
just
have that. Yeah. I still have it. I'm like, okay, I'll be over this. I'm done this year. And after this, I'll be
I
done. Yeah. I
know.
know. Exactly.
Oh,
And
god.
well, I was at work, and I work in this environment, and I find it, it's fascinating. It's like a social experiment in and of itself. When Grush went public in the first Senate
Mhm.
hearing, I got a standing ovation at my job. So that
Oh,
was okay.
wow.
That's really interesting. But then the reality of what this is so it's so it's too much for people still. And I'm comfortable with all the dimensional spiritual aspects, and so many people are not. And I was like, someone said, "Oh, well, they're probably just studying us." I'm like, "Oh, well, the dimensional aspect." They're like, "There's no way there's dimensions here." They're laughing about it, and I'm like, "Oh, you have no idea what we're about to be upon." So this is ontological shock, and it changes up people's nature of reality. So yeah,
Mhm.
we have a lot to work
Oh,
with here.
yeah. Yeah. So why do you think what's the delay? Like, why I always used to say, like, "Let's rip the Band-Aid off." And then I said, "Maybe we shouldn't." I watched a
Yeah,
YouTube video. Like, at
yeah.
this
I've been
figured it
saying that since day one. I've been saying that since day one, and it's because um, so I think the delay is the nature of reality is at stake here for all of us, and the true nature of reality is spiritual, and that is really hard for us. And it doesn't, and
Right.
what that even means is an ontological shock for the nature of your birth and your purpose of living. And what you even looking out at the nature of reality. One of the things I'm actually scared of is the idea for suicide, or the idea for acting out in a very extreme way, that humans
Mhm.
who are unstable will take upon themselves to do. And because
Yeah.
when the human brain, right, the human brain it's an animal. we're,
Right.
we don't feel like we're animals, but it's an animal because it's used to its
Mhm.
consistency. It created reality a certain way. It's got this physical tissue thing going on. It needs to have everything a certain way, right? People get really anxious when they miss their dinners, and never mind. Oh, the nature of what you thought existence was all about is up in stake here. And for some, sure, yeah, some people who went down this rabbit hole, it'll be amazing for them. There are probably over in the billions of billions, if not multiple billions and billions of people who that will not be comfortable with that information. And
Oh,
I just see a real butting of heads in this scenario. And I do think that there was a correct way of going about this. I do think what I always said was we should have gotten all this world's spiritual elders together and let them know about this. And then as a spiritual elders, all of them, Christian and Muslim and Jewish and indigenous and New Age and Vedic, all of them come together, and then as a collective are telling us, you know, there's a new reality upon us, and it
right.
includes these guys. But without it, we have this potential to distort some of the truths as well too. So we have prison planet. So we have people believing in the afterlife, but now they're
Mhm.
still using their analytical, logical victim and trauma mind to assume it's going to be like that in the
Yeah.
afterlife too. You're going to
Yes,
be a
yes.
slave in the afterlife, and it's causing trauma. It's causing people in the public to there was I actually just saw on Reddit post this morning that in the simulation theory they had to create a post saying, in the simulation theory Reddit, they had to create a post telling people, like, don't use this as a people are talking about suicide because of the
Mhm.
simulation theory, because they're assuming it's all just fake, so then I should just be killing myself. And so we're in such a very very sensitive and unstable time, and if you
Oh,
aren't
yeah.
secure in the spiritual stuff, the human brain is just going to go nuts with all the problems and all the victimization and
Oh,
traumas
you're
and
so true.
projecting it
So
out into all these
true.
entities and all these realities and all these dimensions
Yeah.
and saying there's this and saying there's that. And yeah, it's going to be a hairy time, and we need the entities, I think, tech, to help with showing us what's really going on here in the spiritual dimensions, just so it keeps us grounded in some type of consistency.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Definitely, I agree with that 1000%. And, I guess I wasn't too worried about it, but then I got talking to my friend, and he's like, "Oh, well, if they come down here, I'm shooting." Yeah, what are you talking about? I was
Yeah.
like, "Settle down here. You're not gonna
Yeah.
be shooting anybody."
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
what's going on?" So that fear of it is just, like, resonating, and you're right. It's because you get to this place through trauma, but if you
Yeah.
haven't gotten that in check, like, you're yeah, it's not gonna do anybody any favors.
Yeah.
Definitely
And
not.
I think these are the bigger issues that were around for decades.
Mhm.
And yeah, I don't know that there was an easy way to handle this. And
I know,
yeah,
I
I
know.
don't. This is
I just
crazy.
think it's come out in the open and then more and more, and I'm just seeing it on the news, on the media, and, I'm seeing, like, some people just start to change their tune on this whole thing, especially with the experiencers that have been doing this all along. I'm not sure
Yeah.
if you've noticed AI, but I generated, like, I'll just once in a while type in my name to see what pops up, and this, like, book, basically, and all these shows that I had forgotten I had even been on,
Oh,
the whole 9
whoa.
yards, and I'm just like, "Oh, whoa, 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 here a
Yeah.
minute." Like, there's
Didn't say anything
they're
bad about you at all?
transcribing, yeah, what I think is this whole transcribing videos is going
Oh,
in, and then it's putting us on the map. Like, I popped
wow.
up there, and I was like, "Oh, this is great. Now I'm gonna, end up in some." No, but I don't know, but, I'll find out
Right?
more from Bassett tonight. I'm gonna be grilling him on that because I definitely, and he's a big part of that post-disclosure world.
Yeah, he
And for
is.
me,
Yeah.
I think disclosures happen.
Yeah,
I think that we're part of, I think that the movement of experiencers and what you're doing and what other experiencers are doing is so much more powerful, like, than the
I
government.
agree. Yeah, I agree. I think that it's but well, we already got, Lou Elizondo and David Grush talking consciousness. They're
Mhm.
saying it's related to consciousness. It's just funny that people like, okay, we don't know what that means, and so they still focus on nuts and bolts.
Right.
But that consciousness element is, I think, it's critical in understanding the phenomenon, and that's the most important part. And if you're not
Mhm.
understanding that aspect of it, then you're gonna want to shoot them. Yeah, exactly. You're gonna go into the terror mode, the animal mode,
No.
right? The unknown animal terror mode of the dark forest of the night. You need to kill the demon that's in the forest, and that's where people are gonna go with
Right.
this.
I
Yeah,
was like, "Yeah, oh god." I said, "Please tell me before. Give me a call if this happens. Give me a call first. 'Cause I'm
yeah.
coming to," like, there's
I'll
no
take it.
reason. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
No reason to do that.
yeah,
And then, it's just this anticipated fear and then not knowing. And I think
yeah,
that it's really hard. That's the biggest thing, especially, I was a mental health therapist for 7 years prior to this. So I understand, kind of like how the human brain works and this and that. But I also started to see how we pattern things out. And what they
yeah.
explained is we kind of see things backwards,
Hmm,
so our bodies know. But because of that and our cellular memory, we're not able to accurately always anticipate it. And I
hmm.
found it when you said something earlier, I believe you stated, let me think about it this for a second. Um, you had stated something, gosh, now it just like kind of popped out of my head. And I'll think about it. But
Yeah, no.
basically, like on how they communicate, and it's just like they're seeing through. There's always a trade off. And every
Right.
time I've had an experience, I remember where I was going with this now. You said that there, I don't know, like with you, if you kind of had like, for me and for other experiencers that I have talked to, almost like after I had it, I would have 2 days where I was kind of weirded out, where I just stepped back. I felt kind of maybe some flu like symptoms.
Huh.
And I didn't really, really want to talk to anybody in the world. And then, like, by the third day, it was totally different. It was just like, but it took me that time to really
Oh, totally.
process it.
Yeah, well, you're hyper vulnerable with them, right? A
Mhm.
vulnerability that the human brain is not accustomed to. I think it's a spiritual vulnerability, but this is their normal world, and so they're able to see your thoughts and feelings, and it's much. The exposure is a energy exposure. It's not even just a
Oh,
mental
so
brain
true.
exposure. It's an
Yeah.
energy exposure. So yeah, I actually know exactly what you're talking about, and from that kind of vulnerability and that exposure, you do need to hunker down, and then the brain has to process it. And I totally agree. Over a couple of days, I've actually said this in several videos I have on my own YouTube channel, that I'll go through ontological shock from having a communication, even from an orb. Something will happen, and I can feel like an information happens from it, and then I'm learning from what they're telling me, and then I'm like, whoa, and I'm in shock from it. I'm like, okay, that means that means that, and then I'm having a whole processing moment, and
Mhm.
yeah, where you take days off from
Yes,
this.
yes, yes.
Yeah,
You really,
I know
yep.
exactly what you're referring to. Yeah,
Yeah, and we actually, there was a couple of us that would, it was just like everybody had such great empathy when you told them like, "Oh, I had, whatever, like I've had missing chunks of time and all that." And then when you kind of come back through, and then I just remember how lovely like some of the experiences where they had that like deep empathy, like, "Oh,
yeah,
we understand," it's like,
right.
and there's a lot of commonalities like between us. I don't know if you've ever like gone into like the surveys I've obtained them, and then
You
they
mean with the
were
free
shut
research?
down.
Free
They were
research?
they're on experiencers on things that we maybe share in common and
Yeah,
the
no, I'm
commonalities,
all over that. Yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about, totally.
like the
Yeah,
Roper poll, and then they had
okay,
Star by, and then right before I think it was like NIDS, or it might have been the AATIP, but
okay, I don't know those.
oh yeah,
So
but
you're
they're
only
all
doing
government. Yeah,
I have
yeah,
the
yeah.
free research. The free was, they experienced 5,000 they surveyed 5,000 experiencers,
Mhm.
and they have a lot of statistics off of it, and I talk about that quite a bit because it all matches all my stuff. Yeah,
Oh wow, yeah. So we'll have to exchange some documents.
would love that, yeah.
Blood
Yeah.
type, have you noticed anything? See,
I'm not Rh negative, so
I'm
yeah.
not either, but I may be negative.
I have to pay for it here. It's a whole process, and in Canada, and I haven't
Mm.
been able to do that. So I don't know what my blood type is actually. Yeah.
Oh, really? I just know that my grandmother was Rh negative, but I have two parents that are O
Mm,
negative, and then
me
I
too.
was so jaundiced because my blood did not wasn't compatible with my mom. So it turns out I was AB negative,
Oh,
and so
interesting.
that's kind of what I'm hearing a little bit more and more is like the blood type. So yeah, I
Oh,
was just curious what you
are
had heard
you?
on that.
Do you have what's your genetic heritage?
I would be Irish, half Irish. I thought I was German until my sister took a test, but English and Scottish.
Everybody who has all the experiencers I know have Irish
Mhm.
in their blood.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
how
and
interesting.
so I have gray alien DNA, and
Mhm,
I have a distinct two contact events. I mean, they tell me directly, but never
mhm,
mind them telling me as if they're deceivers, which is what everyone wants to believe. Oh, they're tricking you.
mhm.
I felt it. I could
Yeah.
feel it. I was bonded to the tall grays, and then the elders explaining to me, yeah, we have your DNA, and they showed me my mom being inserted with a needle and all that stuff, and so I have some kind of like mixed thing going on here, and I
Mhm.
can feel it in people, and it's the Irish gene.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm 100% convinced that the druids, the ancient druids of long time ago, kind of thing, are some type of gray alien human hybrids, and so that we're like the Irish thing is an original stock, and then they, with their crafts and everything, they can just sense that stuff in people. So then,
Mhm.
yeah, you become an experiencer because they can interact with you, and it's I'm finding everybody has the Irish link. So
Oh, how that's so interesting. That's so fascinating that you said that because I always looked for a link. Like, I grew up seeing spirits, and it came from my great aunt of Ireland. Like, I guess she saved my mom's side of the family from the potato famine and, was able
right,
to
right,
communicate. But then now I sit back and I wonder because they all say that the channelers or the mediums, they too are experiencers. So it's very interesting. I know with the woo, over there, it's like it's a totally different acceptance level. Like when I
yeah,
talk to people over there, they're like, no, 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 the woo people, we're everywhere. And I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah,
here in America, we haven't quite adjusted that way. But
yeah.
yeah, and it's, it's like, okay, so I've had this question asked, and I'll ask you, why you? Out of all the people in the world, why did they pick you, Jeff?
Yeah, I think that they look at I think that they look at your past life as well.
Hmm.
I think that this is not just you, because what we do is we focus on the present, and we look at the person and we say, oh, what makes him so special, and we get mad at people who are more
Yeah.
successful than us, and we want to belittle those who haven't done as well as us, and the reality is that you are a very complex thing. You're an energy form that's been living for thousands of years,
Right.
and you have a set of experiences built into those that create your tendencies, that create your likes and your dislikes and all these kind of these directions, the things you might even be used to. And so there was 100% an agreement in the afterlife, and it occurred. This is all in my book. They showed it to me, and I saw it, and I verified it for myself. You can say that. So it's not
Awesome.
duping. I didn't get tricked. I know this to be real, for myself. So as soon as my last life died, and I was in the
Mhm.
Holocaust, I was in World War II, and it died, and then it came into the afterlife, and the aliens were right there right away, and they're trying to make an agreement. They're like, as if, because they knew this was gonna happen, right? This is the big,
Right.
big, big, big picture stuff. They knew this was gonna happen. So then they're looking for recruits, and it's safe to say that what happened to me with my experiment with them, they knew some details of what I had done in certain other lives. So there's this imprint
Mm,
left in my ethereal body, if you will, that they are able to
right.
say, okay, we could use that guy. He knows this, he knows that. He's had that experience, so he'll be used to this. He'll have this in his history, so he'll understand that. And then when I was birthed in, they still were taking a lot of information from me. I have a childhood contact event. I think it's my fourth childhood contact event, and they scan my brain. So they had me look into this object that takes a model of my brain. So they're
Okay.
still kind of like mastering me, and then they build the contact events for me, and so it's an agreement. It's not so
Trade-off.
much
Yeah.
why am I? Yeah, it's a trade off. It's 100% a trade off. It's not just this world
Oh,
where I'm so special. I say, you know what, man? if you are, you have a degree and you're in a corporate job and you're making over hundreds of thousands of dollars, you're special too. And the musician who is on their 7th album and has a band and has a bunch of followers, you're special too. Like, we're all special. We
Right.
all have our lives designed and made and architected in a certain way. And I have trade-offs here. I don't have everything's perfect for me or glowy and happy all the time either.
Exactly.
So yeah, this is a trade-off, and this was my trade-off, was to do this. And also it's peaking at this point, but there was a period where it wasn't peaked and I suffered and I was struggling a lot, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so this is all, everything's in exchange, and they're looking at the bigger picture of things. So yeah.
Yeah, do you think, like, I just, everybody thought I was crazy, like, "You're walking away from," this I said, there I went through some medical things, where I would, like, I had to learn how to walk again. I lost my whole right side. I was gonna give
Good
you
for
a little
you.
brief and it was not that, like, I had the curve up. I had fusion in my neck, so I just dropped over. So I had to learn, like, all these things again, and I got to a point where I was like, they're like, "Well, you're not gonna get much better." They didn't know what was going on. I had one infection after another. And, like, my family, I really thought, they're like, "This is it. She's, like, dying here, or something's going on." Because 'cause it's been, like, 2 years, I'm just going like this. My hand was so swollen, no balance, no strength. And it was, I would say, by the second, point of contact that I remember, uh, I was about 50% better. Like, it was like somebody, and they're like, "Explain it." And when you said before, it was like a jolt of energy that had gone through me. It was like this, it was jolted, And I was like, "Wow, this is amazing." And I just remember my precision. And from there, it was just like, I'm totally I'm in way better shape. I'm, like I said,
Right.
like, than I ever was before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
All that
there's a
stuff.
trade-off,
Yeah.
there definitely is.
Yeah.
But from that, I
Everything's in,
always owe him gratitude.
yeah. I'm kind of convinced that well, even so, for all the biological stuff,
Mhm.
I haven't found a single contactee who just talks about this in some type of victim way, because there's always a trade-off. It turns out for every contactee,
Yeah.
yeah, they took biology, but they also maybe have done something else with the contactee,
Mhm.
and that's what the case was with me. Everything was everything, even during the contact event. So it wasn't just a trade-off to have the contact events. Even
Yeah.
within them, they were like, "Hey, you give us this, and then we'll do that." And so, okay, well, then you're complying in the moment, because in the moment it's even a trade-off, and they're doing things in the spot. So yeah, I think that's the whole point. Even presently with the book, I've heard the words co-creation. So
Oh,
this isn't just
interesting.
my creation, it's their creation as well too. And because it's in my realm, then we're creating it together. So yeah,
Right.
it's like for them, it's even both together. We're doing it together. Yeah.
So do you think that family? Do you think that that's, like, where you originated from, or have you been told any of that type of information?
Yeah, I have been. So they definitely think of me as their child. And yes, there is so the elder is the mother,
Mhm.
and then this mantis type thing. I don't
Oh,
I call
interesting.
it a mantis, but it's not, it doesn't look like a bug in my contact events. It's this other looking aardvark like creature.
Okay.
But it's the kind of father figure, if you will. And so he's like, "You are our children." And yeah, there is an affection. There is 100% a type of affection that goes on here. And but it's from their realm. So sometimes they're detached from the things you don't expect them to be detached from, and
Right.
and sometimes they're loving when you don't expect it. So like, oh, okay, and interesting. And so all you do is just learn. And of course, I have my earth based world that I feel
Mhm.
connected to, but
Right.
I'm definitely linked to these guys, these entities, and I definitely do feel kinship. That's the best way to frame it, kinship.
It's crazy because I hear, and then, some other experiencers too always have the mama,
Yeah.
it's like,
Oh, I
but I
agree.
never ever hear, like, the dad. It's always mama that's
Susie
interacting.
Hansen.
It seems like
Susie
I've
Hansen as
experienced.
the dad. Yeah, Susie Hansen
Yeah.
as the grandfather, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very no,
So,
but you're so right. This is new to me. I didn't know it was this prolific till I was public.
right.
And then I have another experiencer friend who's in touch with a mother as well too. And I was like, oh, and he's like, oh, well, there's also this other person I know, and there's this John Mack story. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know these other mother references. I never heard this before. So yeah, it's like they're using, I think they're archetypes is what they are, and they recognize
Okay.
we connect with those archetypes, right?
Oh, very
And
true.
yeah,
I really do. I feel like a lot of it too is to get our attention to help us to understand. It might not be exactly the way it is. And that's why I really feel like it's different for everybody because I said, it's all subjective. It's all like, this is you that's going out there, but we need to connect with one another. Like, this is crazy that we're all divided and that we're not
yeah,
trying to figure out because what more powerful way, like when you're around a fellow experiencer, it's like you can just feel that energy, and it's like, we
yeah.
should be doing this together. Why are we not doing this together? It drives me crazy when I hear it.
So there's something really weird going on. So think about this.
Okay.
So the I'm finding most people are biased in this field, right? And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, most people, everyone's hunkering down with a perspective or a frame of reference, and they're saying that's it,
Yep.
and the problem is that contactees actually a lot of the time also can't get on the same page about information. But what you're hitting at is this other subconscious spirit realm, if you will, where we interact with each other and we say things to each other, and then we
Mhm.
influence each other. And so it's kind of weird how linear and logical information isn't always consistent with the entities, but the more general spiritual information seems to like we can trigger other people with our information. The contactees, exactly what you're saying, experiencer to experiencer, we really vibe off of each other. We can have dreams off of each other. We can be affected by off of one another. One person can be saying something, that person could go mull about it, and then have a contact because of it. Right?
Right.
Another example of this is Whitley Strieber has written. My 16-year-old contact event happens because I'm reading Whitley Strieber's book, and I actually pray to be abducted, and then they
Wow.
answer. So it's him triggering me, right? So you keep having this. This is a very fascinating subconscious spirit realm style of kind of connecting, kind of weaving in together, where all the logical parts of this don't sometimes add up. And the more linear logical stuff, which is our human brain, which seems to be the big construct between us and the entities, and
Mhm.
also the nature of reality, by the way. So we are the odd ones out with our human brain that needs and requires this logical infrastructure, which isn't even nature, right? Nature doesn't have the same type of logical infrastructure, right?
Oh,
So
no. Yeah.
we have this brain that's demanding information to be this certain way, and the entities almost seem to play off of it, and where we may have different types of information, but oddly enough we all kind of can resonate off of each other, through what we're talking about, what we're saying, how we're experiencing what we're experiencing, and how we translate that into our personal lives. Yeah,
Right. Oh, absolutely. It changes everything. It
yeah,
really does.
yeah,
There's not everybody can understand it. Not everybody's gonna, and like you said, you're gonna get this, oh, how can you trust them? What if they're trying, to fool you? Well, why? I don't understand like that part of it because there's if you've had a contact experience, I'm guaranteeing something positive, some
yeah,
change, and it may not be like right away because it's very devastating. I went through a lot leaving my career. I'm sure you did
yeah,
too. I mean,
yeah,
you left a pretty cushy, like lifestyle. Here we go, and took this on, and most people be like, "What the hell's wrong with you guys?"
yeah, yeah,
It's so much bigger because life you
yeah, so
can't
much.
take that with you. You can't.
Yeah, and I think I like to use the analogy of biologist to animal. Right? You have a bear,
Mhm.
and the bear can't comprehend the realm of the human. So
Right,
you need to put that animal down, anesthetic, to bring it into your lab to help it with its disease or its virus or whatever it's got. So the
right,
animal literally can't comprehend the human's world. That's why we have to put it out. If we could just sit there and talk bear, I'm certain we could bring that thing in, and then
right,
have it be natural and aware, and the bear would understand all the medical reasons that this stuff has to happen, and the world that we built with our building that put it there in the bed and the needle. Yeah, sure, we could speak bear, we could maybe translate all that, but we can't, and we don't. And I think something like that goes on here. We have translation of dimensional reality. This is not our world, and the
right.
entities are limited by us. right? So I think sometimes people think, oh, they're not telling us everything, so then they're clearly liars and deceivers. And I'm seeing a world where I think that they tell us to the degree with which we can comprehend, and
Oh, yeah.
they're not dealing with, the people who run the world. They're not talking to politicians and scientists. They're talking to the average Joe, right? So yeah, we are not, and that makes sense when you're dealing with an entire population, rather than
Yes.
trying to give everything to these groups of people who are already well off, or to these upper echelons of our society. They're giving it to the average individuals to change society. And so
Right.
us as average individuals don't have backgrounds in scientific information. So we aren't, some of this information isn't relevant to us. So they're not telling us full details of information to us. And that's my experience too. And so people interpret that as deception and lying. And I'm like, I'm typically in the realm of, this is about dimensions and
Yeah.
translation between us and them.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I could not agree more with it. And it's so great to I'm partial to the experiencers, and I'm really trying to, like, set an example, like, hey, we want this. Like, I wouldn't I've asked so many people that aren't, I'm like, so if the government came out and they said tomorrow, okay, the truth embargo ends or whatever, that aliens are real and they're here. Like, I think that that would cause a bigger uprising than, it's like, then everybody probably wouldn't believe it was happening. Like, then in their, with their drones and the Project Blue Beam and, like, it's everything. It's so confusing, but
Yeah.
it's not confusing when you're in contact with them. It seems to make
Right.
so much more sense.
Yeah,
And
I
so,
agree. That's good. Yeah, it's good. I like it. I agree with that
yeah.
too.
Well,
Yeah.
I know Robert Dean, he said, like, "Oh, well, you wouldn't believe how many, like, of the I don't know about the reptilians or, like, whichever you wanna call them, that are living here, maybe living, like, underground or that are simulated with us." He's like, "They're walking up and down the halls of the Pentagon." They're here, and you don't realize how many and what type of control that they have. And I also know there's kind of rules to the game, or what's the outcome, of it, but so I just, I didn't know if it's like a battle. Do you think it's like a battle between something down here and something out there, or where do you think that line kind of comes in? Or what's
Yeah.
your take, I guess, even on like humanoid extraterrestrials like living among us? Are you buying that? You're not buying that, or
So we're gonna have to come, especially for contactees, we're gonna have to
Mhm.
start really narrowing down who's actually having contact
Right.
and what's the type of contact, because that may play into some of this as well too. Um, and how we validate that contact. And because I'm having trouble now with some of the lower level stuff about everyone's individual experiences. I think that something, other entities are interacting with us.
Mhm.
And for me, I verified, I proved to myself the DNA stuff. I can't, it can't be fudged. So this, for me, in my personal lived experience, the content that I has proven to myself. So for me, there's gray aliens that are definitely interacting with humans, and these entities are 100% from another realm, another dimension
Absolutely.
where shape shifting can occur. And so we're dealing with astral bodies. And I listen, I have a Vedic guru, and bilocation is a real deal thing. I've witnessed it with my own eyes. Look at the book, The Masters of the Far East. This stuff is real, and this is the type of stuff that gray aliens can do. And they can shapeshift while you're bilocating. So you can be a human in a realm with which looks like humans. So then they're actually a different type of entity, masquerading or manifesting as this other species.
Right.
And I'm a bit confused by some documents that I have that look gray alien in nature, from the government. Not one of them is explaining where they live, coming from an alternate Earth realm. And the
Mhm.
alien that I know showed me that's where they're from. They're from an alternate Earth realm. But what's wacky about that is the government document says that they're humanoids. And that's the stuff that had me thinking, going, wait a minute, what? Because
Yeah.
my entities, this is their realm. So what are they doing? So this idea that maybe they're masquerading, or even for the government side, that they were
Right.
actually, that they were coming in as humanoids. Why? To not freak people out, not because they're grand deceivers, but because you aren't understanding us. So then I
That's
need to
true.
come in as this other form. And the
Right.
demon
I never thought about it like that, but yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
live in molten how? was told directly. So I got to hang out with her at Contact in the Desert, and she's
Oh,
actually really
cool.
sweet, really beautiful, but she's anti-gray, right? She's got this whole anti-gray alien thing going
Oh,
on.
yes, the pointy features, the pear shaped. Yeah, she
Yeah.
EBs. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah.
definitely.
But the reason why, she explained to me. So she was given a document by the DoD from the 1990s, and it was all about how gray aliens are deceivers and all this stuff. And here I am thinking, well, yeah, see, this very protectionist organization that maybe they understood couldn't wrap their heads around with the nature of these entities and where they're from and what they're coming from and all the kind of consciousness level you need to be at to even wrap your head around some of this stuff. So here you are, maybe they're masquerading with the government, and maybe they weren't telling them all the details because not because of malicious entities, because they know in the big scale when a change happens, yeah, we're looking at individuals, not your government institutions. The entities I know don't think about government institutions. They're not thinking about these details. And I'm certain they're thinking about the micro details about individuals. And then they're looking at big changes, big, big consciousness changes. And so maybe they're interacting with these governments, but in a way or in a manner with which they're trying to, elevate things as opposed to grand deception. Because again, I just haven't found, I've been at this, public for 5 something years, and I haven't seen any grand deception yet. No one's come to me with the, you got all this wrong, here's my proof for that.
Right.
So we have a bunch of, deduction. That's what all the deception is coming from, deduction based off of observation. And we don't know what
Right.
that stuff means. And it's experiencers and contactees who are like, no, man, the guys I know they're actually highly benevolent, and humans are actually are disturbing to them. That's the entities I know are disturbed by the violence, disturbed by the destruction. They're like disturbed by the human tendencies for these things. So I can't even begin to imagine a world where they're hanging out with governments and coercing them to do something that but it doesn't shock me also that they would translate all that into control. So that because they're a government and they're thinking themselves as a self-preservation of an institution that they have to protect. So then they're looking at everything from an angle with which it is, destructive to them. And I'm not doubting it could be. It likely, very, very likely is destructive to the government. So they're going to see it as a threat, and they might call it a threat, and they might call it, a deception, and they might call it this, and they might call it that. And I'm just not seeing that as the real answer to things. And so I think that so that level of the ground level of what's really happening on the ground is confusing to me. And I don't fully understand the bigger picture, but I do know that these entities are originating from dimensions that are scales up in our comprehension level. And therefore I already see so many problems in translating that interaction. And it does look like some kind of interaction has happened, maybe continues to happen, but I'm not convinced of any type of working with, because I don't really see evidence that the government's worked with. Even Lou Elizondo, right? Apparently
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
weren't the crafts. They get the crafts and they don't know how to work them. There's not an alien hanging out with them
Right.
saying, "Oh, press that button, press that one. I'll tell you how to use this craft this way." They're given crafts just like they're contactees. They're given something, you figure it out. And now you have to learn and develop and evolve. And that's what they do with contactees. You're given something, you have to learn and develop and evolve. And
Yes,
that's how they've handled me
that's so
directly.
true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I see them doing that with governments. You take that craft, now you try and figure that out, and you evolve and you try to develop off of it. And even the crashes, that's what I'm convinced all the crashes are. Crashes are actually purposely seeding. So you learn, you develop, you grow off of that. And yeah, that's fitting the picture, is this species who is highly benevolent, disturbed by us, and trying to work with and figure us out. Yeah.
Oh, I definitely could not agree with you more. I think, oh man, they must be looking here and thinking, what is going on? I mean, just some of the, I mean, I don't know. It is. It's a lot for people to wrap their minds around, and
Mhm.
and I do think that, like, I really do. I'm with you on that, where I've not experienced anything that has been completely negative or that
Yeah.
hasn't pushed me to grow
Yeah.
in the right directions.
Yeah.
Um,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, you know,
Even
it just
trauma.
oh,
Trauma can be
yeah.
there's such a thing as post-traumatic growth. which is,
Mhm.
growing, taking positive growth out of traumatic events, learning
Yeah.
how to, internalize that and figure out how to grow from it. And that's what the
Right.
entities do seem to be doing. They do seem to break brains. I admit they did it. That's what they did with me, and they seem to do with people. But I can't be angry at them for it because I learned so much about myself in the
Oh, yeah.
process of my own
Oh,
consciousness.
isn't it amazing? Yeah. I remember that, MUFON, I call him MUFON Dave. He was one of the first Dave Creeder was one of the first, ones that came in, and I still get in contact with all of them. But I was like, man, it's like all of this stuff and, I was like, "Will it happen?" I was more shocked by the fact that there was no second step. I was like, "Okay, so now this," and he's like, "Did the veil lift?" I was like, "I don't know about a veil or whatever you got going on now," but, I was like, it things have changed, but it's been over a course of time, and I can always tell when the new experiencers or people are coming into it because they have this huge sense of urgency. I've got something.
Yeah,
I gotta
yeah,
tell you. And then
yeah,
I'm like, just hold on a minute. There's
yeah,
thousands of us out here who
yeah,
have. You're
yeah,
just starting your journey and it's going to be one wild ride. And,
yeah,
just go. And I could not have asked, and people would ask me like, "Why you? You're in a small town in Iowa." I was like, "Yes, exactly. Why me?" That's what I'm trying to figure out. So,
right,
it's like, "Why do you think I'm doing all this?" Like,
yeah,
I'm here so I can understand myself better and understand my part in this and my connection with my fellow brothers and sisters. But, um, at this time, we do with Helix Rock Radio give a little 5-minute break. And would you be
sure,
willing to stay on, Jeff, and answer some questions? There's some great questions in there and stuff.
totally.
Is
I would
that
love to,
okay?
yeah, of course, yeah,
Okay. Yes. So, if you have questions for Jeff, please put them all in caps. I know there's some people wanting to ask him about the drones, and that's
yeah,
very interesting. So,
you got it.
we will be back shortly. I just have to get this real quick. All right. Caught me there.
Lights in the sky above, questions we can't shove, mysterious stories told, secrets that unfold. Experts share their tales, mysteries in the trails, whispers in the night, aliens in flight. Oh, UFOs aren't real, tell me what you feel. Aliens unseen, paranormal dream. Cryptids in the woods, Sasquatch understood, the unknown so surreal, cool news we reveal. Experts talk and share, mystery everywhere, beyond the skies we gaze, eerie endless maze. Oh, UFOs aren't real, tell me what you feel. Aliens unseen, paranormal dream.
Lights up in the sky, strange shapes passing by, whispers in the night, the unknown takes flight. Aliens and dreams, paranormal streams, secrets in the mist, hidden truths persist. Tell me what's out there, secrets we can share. UFOs and stars, cryptids in the woods, Sasquatch like it should. Echoes in the dark, leave a lasting mark. Experts leading way, truths they need to say. Peeling back the veil, tales that never fail. Tell me what's up there, secrets we can share. UFOs and stars, mysteries so far, Mr. Far. Cryptids in the woods, Sasquatch like it should. Echoes in the dark, leave a lasting mark. Cryptids in the woods, Sasquatch like it should. Echoes in the dark, leave a lasting mark. Cryptids in the woods, Sasquatch like it should. Echoes in the dark, leave a lasting mark. Cryptids in the woods, Sasquatch like it should. Echoes in the dark, leave a lasting mark. Cryptids in the way, truths they need to say. Peeling back the veil, tales that never fail. Cryptids in the woods, Sasquatch like it should. Echoes in the dark, leave a lasting mark.
Where the secrets come to light, voices echo through the space. Whispers of a hidden place, like ops running through the veins. Mysteries that break the chains. Eyes wide open looking in, where do our dreams begin? Let's talk about the unknown, in a world that isn't shown. From the stars to underground, where the mysteries are found. Extraterrestrials collide, where the interdimensional hide. Abductions in the dead of night, in the darkness out of sight. Cyclops running through the veins, mysteries that break the chains. Eyes wide open looking in, where do our dreams begin? Black Ops running through the veins, mysteries that break the chains. Eyes wide open looking in, where do our dreams begin? Black ops running through the veins, mysteries that break the chains. Eyes wide open looking in, where do our dreams begin? Black ops running through the veins, mysteries that break the chains. Eyes wide open looking in, where do our dreams begin? Let's talk about the unknown, in a world that isn't shown. From the stars to underground, where the mysteries are found. Let's talk about the unknown, in a world that isn't shown. From the stars to underground, where the mysteries are found. Mysteries are found. Extraterrestrials collide, where the interdimensional hide. Abductions in the dead of night, in the darkness out of sight. Extraterrestrials collide, where the interdimensional hide. Abductions in the dead of night, in the darkness out of sight. Extraterrestrials collide, where the interdimensional hide. Abductions in the dead of night, in the darkness out of sight. Cyclops running ancient woods, Anunnaki understood. Near death brings a different view, out of body feels so true. Let's talk about the unknown, in a world that isn't shown. From the stars to underground, where the mysteries are found. Let's talk about the unknown, in a world that isn't shown. From the stars to underground, where the mysteries are found. Let's talk roaming ancient woods, Anunnaki understood. Near death brings a different view, out of body feels so true.
And welcome back from our break. So I'd like to welcome our listeners on the Helix Rock Radio side and Facebook. We got we are like all streaming a lot of different places. So right now we have Jeff. He's shared this amazing, absolutely amazing information. I've got to literally order your book. I mean, I just am fascinated right now. And we'll have all that information too for you guys. So where it's located, you can look and see in the description. So we'd like to take some questions. I know that some people had some questions on the drones, like and things like that. So I'm going to go back. And if you do have questions, please put them all in caps so we're able to see those. Let me see here. I know I saw some good ones here, so I started them. Yeah, so here we go. From Corey Y. He's asking, do you think the drones people are seeing is just testing how ready the surface population is for disclosure? Or what do you think these drones are all about?
So I was on Cosmic Convergence, podcast Cosmic Convergence, and I gave them my videos. And so my entity, I have prolific contact with my entity, the Elder, I call her. And so I filmed her as orbs. When I say prolific contact, around my house, I'm able to film her at times when they want that filming, by the way. And so I filmed her as orbs. I filmed her twice as some weird black object in the middle of the day. And sometime last year, she started appearing to me. Now, I saw it with my own eyes, an object shapeshift into a plane. And that happened in June. And a plane with FAA lights. And so it was a black plane. And the lighting would be inconsistent with a normal plane. And inconsistent, I mean that it would turn off and then back on and turn off and then do weird blinking. So I was able to link it when she would come back that this is her, and she would do close flybys of my home. And I filmed her at first back in those days, back in June, but there was a communication to not film them. So they didn't really want me to be filmed, kind of shy. But those films I gave to Cosmic Convergence, and you can look at them on their podcast there. That some of those drones display behaviors that people reporting in New Jersey display behaviors that are consistent with what I witnessed. So a bus-sized, you could say, a bus-sized object that doesn't sound like a plane. So there's no propeller sound. It's a weird drone hum. And that's what we're getting from these reports. So there's and some of the green and red lights of like a drone just sitting stationary, blinking back and off, on and off, and then moving and then disappearing. Those are all normal with my experience. And then I started going public saying, hey, I'm noticing that my experience I had directly is linking up with these. So I can't say all of those drones are, but the drones that I'm witnessing, I'm convinced 100% they're not just extraterrestrials or interdimensional beings, however you want to frame that. They're the ones I deal with, which are these types of gray entities, these gray dudes. So that being said, one night I asked, so I haven't gone public with this yet, but like, what's going on? I was kind of actually just open-hearted, not looking for answers. I was just like in a state of stupor about this whole thing. And I was openly hearted asking, and she actually answered in the moment. And I'll just frame it that I'm convinced that, yeah, this is the beginning. And they actually want the government to acknowledge them in some kind of like capacity. And so maybe sightings are happening all over the world. Maybe that's becoming more prolific, but it seems to definitely be focused on you guys and America. And that this is a desire on their behalf. Yeah, they're definitely warming up public, but I'm pretty convinced that they want an acknowledgement of that historical relationship, or the information that government body has. To some degree, they're wanting that information out, and that's what I understood. And then if said information, it's going to build up, and that's what I understood too, was that something might happen soon that could be larger, that could be undeniable. So that's that.
Okay. I got kicked out of StreamYard, so I don't know what happened. You did great, though. Keep going. Yeah. So
no, that's the gist of it. I'm convinced it's those entities, and I'm convinced it's I'm convinced it's actually. Listen, I'm was a big believer in the 2027 a long time ago when I heard it,
Mhm.
because what I knew from the entities, what's in my book, what's in my story, that the planet was at stake, and we are already overboard with what's going on with our damage and the size of our population, and so there's like some big problems coming up ahead, and the issues aren't poverty and climate change and whatever people think that were wars. The issues are
Mm.
that these guys are here and they're very aware of it, and they need some of this stuff to stop, and because I think they're sharing the planet with us, and so it's this bigger picture that this body has the knowledge or information, and they want that information out, and so that's what I understand, and it not coming out that there's going to be some kind of larger presence. I can't speak for some of the other people making prophetizing what's going to happen, but I'm a big believer in 2027 that there's going to be an intervention of some type. Yeah. Stephen Greer is talking about a disclosure in 30 days. Do you know what he's talking about? No, I don't. I don't focus too much on Greer, Stephen Greer, so I don't really know what he's referring to. Yeah, I'm not really clear. Sorry about that. I don't know. I think Coley. I think Coley's having some problems. So okay, so I'll. Oh,
Yeah.
I,
Yeah,
yeah,
how do you, like, that feeling of being alone? I don't know why StreamYard once in a while acts up
no
and glitches, but
problem. You
yeah,
still on my own radio show, so I could take over, no problem.
there you go. See, I was gonna tell you could stream on your own. I have that setting. I would love to have you back. So Polly always has some good questions. She said Dr. Greer is coming out and he's stating in 30 days that disclosure is going to happen. What do you think on your take on Greer? Greer's always been an outsider in all of this. He doesn't really, communicate with us that too often. But
Yeah.
what's your take on all that?
Yeah, I think I don't focus on Greer. Yeah, so
Mm.
I don't know what to say about that, but I don't focus on him. And so, I mean, there's a lot of people saying a lot of things. That's it. And I
Right.
guess I just added into that by saying that I think something's going to happen. But yeah, but it doesn't shock me that we're coming to a period here where something has to happen,
Mhm.
because their presence has to be known. So yeah, but what he's referring to, I don't know what he could be referring to.
Yeah, I don't know either. He dumped his files, which is weird. It's kinda like kill switch. So I don't know. I've been hearing some things about him, but yeah, I
Yeah,
was just curious. Well, I guess Polly was curious too. Greer, yeah, I shouldn't even say this, but I didn't look through all the documents to even see what he had. But Polly also asked during my brain surgery, the doctors took out a cubed implant from the pituitary gland. We don't know what's in there, good or bad, and just that it was taken. I've I have something in my brain too, but they never took it out. It's like shaped like a kidney bean. So just wondering what you think about like the implants and having them
interesting.
or yeah.
I think I caught a little bit earlier that Polly said that she had a book downloaded into her. So I don't know
Mhm.
if that's connected there, but yeah, this one, my first experience when I was 7 years old in Colombia, I saw a book on a craft for the first time, and I got a download, green numbers running in my brain like a computer. What are the
Wow.
numbers? I can't speak for the numbers, but yeah, okay, there you are, probably. Thank you. But what's interestingly consistent with what you're talking about and my own story.
Mhm.
So yes, the entities gave me implants in my first contact event when I'm 16 years old. Not the childhood contact events. I call the 16-year-old the first because it's the beginning of the relationship I have with him.
Right.
Yeah, they definitely put something up my nose, and I can feel it moving around, and I'm panicking at the time, and but it does seem to go into my brain, and then they'll refer back to it years later, but they'll refer that there's an object in my brain, and there's no all the discovery about it
Mhm.
comes out at the present. They didn't really tell me too much during my contact events about it, but they also gave me a book So I had a download as well too, which was from a book. So I
Oh,
saw an
fascinating.
alien book on craft, and it seems to go into my head. And I never really understood how that happened or what was going on. You don't know you don't know. You're just subject to the stuff, and then you don't understand how it's
Oh, yeah.
actually occurring. And only years later, you're trying to put all the pieces together. And I'm actually
So
now
true.
really convinced that that object in my brain, stores it or something, or holds
Mhm.
it, because I'm able to go back into that download. So there's something really weird about that piece. So I mean, I can't really speak directly to Polly's experience, but I definitely have that. I definitely have an object that they use. And yeah, when I'll go to the conferences, like if I'm doing
Mhm.
something big public, it'll become activated. Like I'll see in my visual sphere, metallic sheening will overtake my sphere when it's like becoming activated. I mean, maybe it's already activated
Mhm.
most of the time, but it's on like light or something. I don't know. I don't fully understand these things yet. But there's definitely an object in my brain, and it definitely interacts, and they are definitely, I guess they're witnessing some stuff. I don't, and
Mhm.
maybe what I will see in a contact event that they're able to put my thoughts on a computer. So maybe this is the object that helps them do that. I don't fully know.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
fascinating. Do
they're
you
able
know
to
what?
like they're able to like read my thoughts, take it, store it, and do things
Oh.
with it. Yeah.
So do you know what yours looks like? I would love to send you I have MRIs, and the only reason that I was able to obtain them was Mayo Clinic had them first, and I was going to John Hopkins. And so they were trying to figure out. Nobody has ever been able to figure out what this is or why it's there. So that's very interesting. I've heard a lot in the nose too. Dolly Saffron always says like she could like reach up there and just like, she could feel it like dangling
Wow.
down the back. Yeah.
Wow.
She's fascinating. She'd be a good person for you to connect with. Like she's got a really good grasp on it too. But yes, it's just all so fascinating. Like,
Yeah.
like it I would just love to know like if you ever seen any of like the implants or what is the
No.
deal, like what they look like or
No, I've never. I won't budge mine either. Too. I like interacting with them, so I enjoy
yeah.
the experience. And I know for them it's scientific. They're not laughing at my choice of cereal or something, right? They're not
Yeah,
right.
right.
They're not laughing about my life, and it's all scientific from their perspective, and so I'm not really concerned. And yeah, and it helps me interact with them, and so yeah, I keep it all. I have four. That's all I know. I got one up my nose, which is doing something to the brain.
Mhm.
Uh, one in my ear, and I know that one is there too. And then
Oh,
there's two in my shins. So yeah,
I
those are the
have
ones.
one in
But
my
I've never
arm.
done
Have
any
you ever
body
moved?
X-rays. I've never done that. Sorry,
Say
go
that
ahead.
again. I'm so sorry. Say that
No,
again.
no, I wanted to just trying to finish that. I have never done an X-ray, so I've never seen them. Yeah, so I don't know. I know from personal experience and from their memories of the contact events that they're in me, but I don't have any other erroneous information to say that. I have no X-rays to say that they're in me.
That's amazing. Y
Yeah.
I know that you normal people, would probably freak out, and, like, you're probably right. I just remember that I had one in my wrist, and I could feel it, and I just had, like, a bruise, and I was like I called MUFON Dave. He was
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
like, "Oh, here we go again." I
Yeah.
was like, "Well, there's something in my arm," and I was moving it, and it shot up my arm, so and he's like, "Oh, no, no, that's completely normal. They are known to move." And I was like, okay, okay.
Right.
Well, at least,
Right.
so and I just think it's absolutely boggles my mind that there's not like they don't they don't have a step two. Cause I was like, okay, now I asked for the tour. I was so excited running around chasing these crafts, it's like they start coming and during that period of time when they're really, really heavy. And I
Hmm.
was like, oh, I want a board, me. And then I did, and then I called him. I was like, "What do I do now?
Yeah.
What
Right.
do I where what do I do now? You guys got a book or something you can send me?" He's like,
Right.
"No, we don't know." Like, "What do you mean you don't know?" Yeah, so
Just the
I'm just
experience.
yeah, just and so I think that it would be so and I'm ordering your book as soon as we get off,
Thank
line
you.
here, and yeah, no, I'm fascinated with your story now.
Yeah.
I was before, but now I'm just really, really fascinated by it, but
Great. Thank you. It's great.
yeah, no, and it just some of the stuff you're saying is just like ringing and I'd love to get and your take on it on, like events or things, for the experiencers or do you think that connection is really important? Or do you think we're on our separate, paths that will merge together or what do you think would be the best course of action from today on forward?
For experiencers, is that what you said? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, right, eh? Well, here's the thing, that these locations, places like yourself,
Mhm.
podcasts, Reddit forums, where experiencers can, come to, are helping a lot of experiencers. And the sharing of information seems to be very pivotal at this period. I know the entities are really happy that I have a YouTube channel. Apparently, a lot of people learn from it, and a lot of contactees directly. The people who are leave reviews for my book are contactees. So it's definitely it's almost like, when you don't have the information, then you come to it and you have a synchronicity, as if
Yeah.
someone invisible was saying, go to that podcast or watch that video, or buy that book, right? And so we're playing roles in assisting people. And I think that the best places to do this are places that allow the recognizing that linear information, like
Mhm.
having different facts about gray aliens, is not as important
Yes.
as maybe what's happening to us all. That a lot of people are discovering God in this, right? They're
Right.
finding their source, or they're learning about psychic abilities they never had, or they're recognizing past life awareness, or and they might be doing it in environments where they're isolated. That's when I went to contact in the desert. That was the most biggest feeling. Everybody else is isolated in their environments, and we all come together and feel like we're family. And
Yeah.
even though everyone's having different types of experiences, we're all sharing in this kind of growth that's happening, and that manifests with these entities around us. So we had a magical CE5, and I had a sighting when I left. So they're very aware, they're invisibly there with us, and then they're individually they're interacting with people when you step aside, kind of thing. So they're with us in this process. And but I think this is the type of thing that is the most helpful, and is having a space, environments to grow people right now, and to provide that information. And occasionally, someone who's not an experiencer comes in and learns as well too.
Yeah.
It's,
Oh, yeah.
it's so valuable.
I know. I said it's so funny because in the beginning they're like, "So how you're going to convince?" I said, "I'm not convincing anybody of anything. You just, I already know. Okay, so
Yeah, right.
I'm going moving forward. You got to figure that out. Sometimes you got to figure it out on your own." But yeah, it really is. And my brother, he actually had his experience with my son in the car like 2 weeks before I did, and I'll just never forget it. He came, he's like, shook in, he's like, "Oh, we just saw a UFO." And I was like,
Right.
"Oh, okay. Yeah." I didn't think one way or another about it. But he was shook. He was shook. And my
Right.
grandmother had seen one when she was, so I knew but I just never really thought twice about it. And then like 2 weeks later, when I had mine, I was like, "Oh, this is what he was so shook about." There's like even the power lines were like waving, like, I mean, the energy was so intense,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
intense.
It's not people. That's why I talk about the ontological shock. People assume, I had someone laughing at me for it, and they were a MUFON person. They're like, "I've been
Oh god.
studying UFOs for 30 years, no ontological shock." And everyone assumes we're just talking about on like general ontological shock, like, "Oh, we're not
Right.
alone in the universe." No,
Mhm.
man, you don't know, because yeah, when they're interacting with you, they're
Yeah.
they're going into you. They're going in
Yes.
past your thoughts and into your heart, and you're vulnerable and exposed.
Oh,
And
so
you're like, "I
true.
didn't know that. I didn't know I existed in that faction." I'm like, "Whoa." You don't even know who you are and with them. And then if you don't know that part of yourself, then you're uncomfortable. And then you have the whole sorting through process with yourself. Yeah. It's
Oh, yeah,
fascinating.
it is. You know what? You get really comfortable in uncomfortable situations. I thought
That
that
might
was
be,
fantastic.
there's a Carl Jung thing there about that's how you grow them. I think I saw that,
Mm.
yeah,
Oh,
people who
Carl
have
Jung,
typically
big
psychic
fan.
experiences have fractured psyches. And
Mhm.
so you have like and it's actually interesting. I was in the most contact with the entities when I was not having any stability. I was living in tents in a car, and I was having constant contact because I'm being, constantly shifted up in my own psyche, in my own world.
Well,
So
you're
yeah,
not
there's something
lost
about,
in the world of what they want, the distraction of work and all this stuff. Like, you got to, be out there, right there in the open, and that's definitely great. So what did you
and
learn from that, like, that whole thing? I mean, did you regret it ever? Like, were you sitting there thinking, "God," at some points, "what did I do?" You know, it's like,
was
"Can
it?
I even turn back now?" You know, it's I don't
Right,
know,
right.
but
It was a spiritual journey.
yes.
So it was, there is a twist to all this with the entities, and I'm pretty certain there's some kind of space-time architects,
Yes.
synchronicity making. Synchronicities are a weird part of the story too, and the whole synchronicity side to this is makes you feel like you can just walk off of the cliff and you're gonna have wings.
Yes.
It's a type of spiritual freedom that you don't get otherwise. And now that I'm into Vedic philosophy, this is exactly what Krishna talks about with Arjuna.
Mhm.
It's the type of spiritual it's a type of ego death that you
Oh,
are removed if you're from the physical realm, from the physical body, and you know your spirit's so real, you can rely on source, on the God thing that you call God, whatever it is, a higher self, and you can just walk out that door and there will be guidance and there will be protection, and you're on edge. Whoa, what's going to happen? But spirit is there to protect you, and because
yes.
you're actually part of an invisible something you can't physically see, but you can feel. And
So
that's what the traveling period was with the entities. It's so epic.
it really is. It really is, and when you can, like, you know, it's like I trust that became more real and more
Yeah.
stable than all this stuff in
Stable.
my environment, you know, it's just like, man, I but I don't regret it for a second either. I
Yeah,
don't.
I can't regret it. At the
Definitely
time,
don't.
I was upset that I wasn't like when I didn't know why I was traveling after it went on for a couple of years, I was fighting in my head, and turned out I was fighting with them because I thought I should be going to university. I was 23 at the point by the time it ended. I thought I should be joining society. I didn't know what was going on with my life. And so I was kind of not figuring myself, not understanding my place in the world, and thought I should be in
Yeah.
school and learn and being a normal 20-year-old. But in the end, of course, the big picture, I don't regret a thing. So yeah.
No, no, I've talked to people about that. I said, anytime the trauma or you go through that, you always end up with a superpower. Like, you always
Yeah.
that's the way I put it, like, you always come out of this, sometimes you level up, sometimes, you know,
Yeah.
but you always come out with some sort of, like, a superpower is one of the only word I can think of for
Yeah.
it. So, that's
That's a good word,
awesome.
superpower. I like it.
Yeah, no, I've just actually I've really enjoyed this, and I'd like to really thank you for
Yeah.
coming on and putting up with, my little before
No,
audio
don't worry
and
about that. It's all good. It's normal stuff. We're beholden to the tech, so
you're
that's the way it
welcome.
goes.
Oh, no. Yeah, so I just bought all new equipment, so I'm just
Right.
yeah, but that's great. I would love to invite you back on and, really
Great.
do some of the stuff if you know, and seriously, like, you're able to I don't know if you know this or not, I with my channel, I offer you the ability to stream. If you wanna stream to your channels, like, off of
Oh, good.
here, you're more
Okay.
than welcome to do so, and, you know, I can include that information, but, yes, with that being said, it's great to meet you. I've
Yeah,
been
you
really
too, Coley.
excited
Yeah.
about this, like, I just
Awesome.
experienced this, I just oh, you know, feels like family, it really does.
It really does.
So
Yeah, totally. And you got a great little place here, and obviously a lot of people rely on you here, so that's great. That's the way to do it, and just keep up the great work. It's so fantastic.
you
Yeah.
too, and thank you for doing your part in this. It's not easy, and I get that, but thank
Yeah.
you for doing your part. And is
Awesome.
there, can you tell everybody where they can find you? It's also in the description, so if there's anything that was left out, just let me know, and I'll get that out there for you. And I'll
Yeah.
definitely be in touch soon because we're getting another date to get you back on here. So
That sounds great. Yeah, you got it.
yes,
So my name is Jeff Selver. My website is my full name, JEFFSELVER.com. It's got my book, which is The Rising and the Alien Plan to Build an Enlightened City on Earth. And it is my full 26 contact events with gray aliens, starting in the year 1993 and ending in the year 2017, and how I became aware of the contact events. And the whole story is laid out kind of in linear fashion. I have two researchers who did deep dives with me, and they publicly support me. Ian Howling, who works with Linda Moulton Howe, Susie Hansen, who's a board member of ICER, International Community for Extraterrestrial Research.
oh, wow.
So yeah, they publicly come out supporting me, knowing I'm the real deal and all that stuff. So yeah, that's it. My website has all my links for my YouTube channel, Facebook, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I'll make sure that everything's up there if you notice anything's missing. So usually
Yeah.
people after will, once they get a chance, they'll send me messages. So I'll make sure that information gets out to them. So is there
Great.
anything that you wanted to leave? We're not going to say goodbye to you. We'll see you soon. But is there
Sounds
anything you
great.
wanted to leave the audience with today, or any,
I know it sounds wild, but the message is you're God.
Yes, we are.
So that's the message. The unified field force is real, and I think the entity called it the soul field. And yeah, it's a real deal thing, and you are linked to it, and you don't know it. And if we did, we'd be in a different world. And so that's the whole message: is that the God field is real, and you are it.
Amen. I believe in that. I would totally 100% believe in that Christ consciousness and all that. So
Yeah,
now
you got it.
now even more, Jeff. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
gotta get you back on. So
Awesome.
yes, again, thank you. And everybody,
Yeah.
those words should really resonate with you. And it just have that confidence in yourself that I am, because I don't know and why we were chosen, but we were. And that's a very big responsibility. So if you walk down this road, you've given up a lot of your, like, the ego death, like you said.
Right.
This is,
Yeah.
it's got to go. It's got to go. And
Yeah.
we got to connect with one another. So again, Jeff, thank you so much. And I will be in touch soon. And this is great. So
Yeah.
buy
Great.
Jeff's books and check it out, because I know I am. Like, I just, man, you got me really, my head's just, the ball's rolling. So that's good. But
Awesome.
yeah, on that note, I'd like to thank the Helix Rock Radio side. If you are looking, we're also on Speaker, Twitter, I guess the Twix. I don't even know if Twitter, X, Facebook. You got it, YouTube. We got them pretty well all covered. So I'll be uploading the audio, and I'll let you know when you'll be premiering on those sites too. So thank you again. Yes, and thank you everybody, and we will see you soon.
Great. Thanks for having me, Coley. Thanks everybody for being here. Thanks for your questions. Thanks, Polly, for your question. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, Polly's wonderful. She really is. So
yeah, I see you around too. Yeah. I see you, Polly. It's good. It's awesome. Thanks for being around. It's good.
Yes, thank you. And with that, we will see you again soon.
Awesome.
So here we go.
Take care.
Take care. Thank you so much.
Take the journey, come on.
See, this is, I'll get it here just a second. This is where the StreamYard, but we're doing this. We're doing this. Might just take a second. I usually have to check myself. We're good. We are good to go.
Is that it? It's good?
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. See ya. It says like uploads in progress. We recommend you stay in the studio until all recordings are successfully uploaded. So I'll wait. I want to make sure you get your recordings. It's very interesting what's going on here. Let's close that. Leave an open what uploads page? Leave and open uploads page. Uploading recording. Stay in the studio until your recordings are uploaded.
Take the journey, come on, let's go. Oh yeah, where the stars and secrets flow. Some Nation X radios glow. In the night, we'll ride the show into the unknown, unknown, where mysteries are shown, shown. Dance to the beat we own, own. Yeah. Come with us and let it go, go. Night sky whispers in the dark. Secret trails will leave a mark. Follow close, ignite that spark. We're on a ride, it's just the start. Into the unknown, unknown, where mysteries are shown, shown. into the unknown, unknown, where mysteries are shown, shown. Dance to the beat we own, own. Come with us and let it go, go. Feel the rhythm, feel the night. It's every heartbeat, pure delight. Mysteries come to light. Hold on tight, it's out of sight. It's out of sight. Into the unknown, unknown, where mysteries are shown, shown. Dance to the beat we own, own. Come with us and let it go, go. Feel the rain, come on, let's go. Feel it, oh yeah. Where the stars and secrets flow so bright. Subnation X radios glow on go. In the night, we'll ride the show into the